where we discuss all things caravans. That's right, everything you need to know about caravans, from weights, towing, maintenance, appliances, renovations, buying a caravan, repairs, destinations and reviews. We'll also chat with some Aussie legends, manufacturers, suppliers and of course people who love caravans. Take it away, Roy.
Hi, welcome back to the Caravan Show and our discussion on caravan weights. On this part of the podcast, I'd really like to talk about what you can do to ensure that your caravan is being built or modified, or whatever it is that you're doing with your caravan, to ensure that you look at and consider very much weights. So we talked in the early editions about tear weight and the fact that the tear weight is the caravan weight before we put any payload in it. What's interesting about that tear weight is the tear weight is determined by how much you put into that caravan to start off with. So we've got a payload we add after it's been built, but we can also have a bit of involvement in what happens with the initial weight of the caravan. So one of the things I find as a manufacturer is people coming to me and saying, we want the lightest caravan we can get, and then in the next breath talking about all the things they want to add to it, which is kind of interesting. So, and I'm not talking necessarily about adding additional batteries or solar panels or satellite dishes or all the things that people are now looking to have put into the caravans. I'm talking about things like additional drawers and additional cupboards. So we build a caravan, we design a caravan as manufacturers, and we say we're going to try and build this caravan at around the, well, let's say 2 ton. So here we go, we're building at 2 ton, and then we offer this to a customer. The customer walks in and says, yes, look, I really like this, but and 2 ton's probably about my limit, but I want additional drawers and I want additional cupboards. Of course, what happens here is the weight of that drawer or the weight of that cupboard actually comes out of their payload. So they're attempting to be able to carry more by doing something that creates a situation where they can in fact carry less. Right? So my 2 ton tear weight, by adding these additional drawers and doors, suddenly goes to 21. That's 100 kilos worth of additional cupboard space areas. But that's 100 kilos that we can no longer carry because the ATM doesn't go up. The ATM is static. So if we're talking 2 ton tear weight and we're talking 2,600 ATM, 600 kilos, we just add 100 kilos worth of doors and drawers and cupboards things inside, and now we're down to a 500 kilo payload. You really need to think about what you're going to do if you add these things. So, an additional water tank. So you say to me, okay, we'd like an additional 100 kilo water tank, or 100 litres of additional water. That 100 kilos isn't now the payload. The 100 kilos is plus the weight of the tank, the weight of the straps, the weight of any plumbing additions that we do to it. So in fact, it may very easily be that you've taken 120 kilos out of your payload. So here we go back to my 2 ton tear weight. My 2 ton tear weight, I've added a water tank, I fill it full of water, and I've used another 120 kilos of my payload because my 2 ton suddenly went to 2120. I hope you're sort of following my gist here. What I'm saying is sometimes you add more actually ends up giving you less. So be very mindful of this. Storage containers. I see a lot of people that come in and they've got wonderful storage containers. One of their favourite ones is to put alloy or aluminium toolboxes onto the back of their caravan. First off, the distribution of weight is now totally incorrect. We've now added weight at the very extreme back. That's going to have a negative impact on their ball weight. That's not good for yaw, because actually that additional weight at the back there can cause the van to sway more. But they've got the weight of the box plus whatever they put in there without realising that in fact they're making a big dent on that payload availability. So again, you might fill that toolbox with 40 kilos, but the toolbox itself weighs 10 with the brackets and so forth on it. So now in fact it's cost you 45 kilos or 50 kilos or whatever. So when we manufacture the caravans, when the caravans are being built, my recommendation is that you look at minimum, not maximum. Put the least amount of things in there you're going to need. particularly when it comes to storage space. We've got a big box. We can fill it up quite easily by putting more doors and drawers and things into there. Doesn't increase your carrying capacity. Just think about that one. Again, we go back to the toolboxes. Bigger toolboxes aren't necessarily best. They simply mean you can carry more. But actually, they also mean you can carry less, because the bigger the toolbox, the more it weighs, the reduction in your payload. As a manufacturer myself, I spend a lot of time, and I know lots of other manufacturers do the same thing, trying to get the base weight of that caravan down as low as possible. And there's many ways in which we can do it. Sometimes that seems to be in conflict with what people are asking for. But you really do need to listen to the experts. If you want decent payload, you can get good advice on how to reduce it if you're listening to it. Of course, the problem then also becomes if you ignore that and you start to fill it with all these additional things, we've not only got an overall weight issue, we've got this sway potential. And I'm going to talk in a later podcast about what to do, how to reduce the chances of sway, and what to do when a sway occurs, because that's probably the greatest fear that most caravanners have out there today. So, loading your caravan up with the least amount, designing it or having it built for you with the right distribution of weight, making sure the bulk of the weight is over the axles, not at the back or the very front, not filling toolboxes up at the front or the rear of the caravan, making sure your caravan's nice and level, looking at how much water you really need, as opposed to just saying, well, the more water tanks, the better. Well, the more water tanks, the less you can carry. I really want to harp on this issue because it seems to be grossly misunderstood. So I think that just about covers what we can for today on this podcast about weights. And we'll talk about more about the ill effects of weights at a later podcast. I'm also excited to be able to tell you today that we're going to have some guests on the podcast show, and they're going to talk about caravans and motorhomes and all these other things and incidents, and hopefully some funny stories to share with you. I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope you'll stay with us. Please subscribe to us, and we'll see you for the next one. Thank you.